Broadcasting from Baltimore, Maryland, this is 5 by 3 Radio, where strength is for everyone. I'm your host, Emily Sokolinski, owner of 5 by 3 Training, a strength and conditioning gym in Baltimore, along with my co-host, Rebecca Fishburne, founder of Cornerstone Strength Maryland. Each week, Rebecca and I will discuss the ins and outs of strength training, why there is a no one-size-fits-all approach, and why strength is so important in our daily lives. Thanks for spending some time with us today. Now, on with the show. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to 5 by 3 Radio. I do not have Rebecca here with me today. It is just going to be me, and I'm here with a good friend of mine who actually started as an online client way back in
2017.
2017? Mm-hmm. 2017 when Starting Strength online coaching was a thing, and now it's Barbell Logic. So this is before, and now it's back to Starting Strength online coaching. But this is when Starting Strength online coaching first started. And Lynette was a client of mine, and we got to know each other very well. She is a GP, a doctor, Dr. Lynette Ewart, correct?
Ewart.
Ewart. See, I knew I was going to get that wrong.
Don't worry, it's fine. Lynette will do fine.
And Lynette is a GP in Leicester, England.
Yes.
And we got to know each other very well. She was a fantastic client, and we continued working with each other even after I finished working with the online coaching program with Starting Strength. And over the years past, oh my gosh, now since it was 2017, we're talking like
9 years.
9 years now that we've known each other.
Yeah.
And you have gotten very, very big now in social media, because now you have taken your practice, your GP practice, because as you just said, you're still a doctor, but you have now expanded into coaching. And yes. I feel like that over the years that we've known each other, to see your growth as a client, right? Just kind of interested in getting stronger, to now becoming a coach, to now working with clients and building your reputation as not just a fabulous doctor, but also the go-to for strength training in a population that most people don't really necessarily work with. I think you have a clientele of older clients, just like I do. I mean, we have a mix probably of clients, but it's been fascinating. It's been fascinating for me. I know we don't talk too often, to see that change and that growth. And it's so cool to like see you on Instagram and be like, oh my God, look at like this is like, and just see the amount of information that you have out there now, and you've provided for people over the years. So I want to kind of I'll let you introduce yourself too. I know I just introduced you, but introduce yourself and talk a little bit more about that journey that you've taken from kind of starting with barbell training and then moving into where you are today with your coaching and your position as
my business.
Doctor.
Yeah, I think, well, it would be remiss of me not to give credit where credit's due. And you have been instrumental in getting my journey started, Emily. Firstly, because it was experiencing good coaching and the transformation that led to in me. And you may not remember, but at some point I remember saying to you, I wish I could send my patients to you. But then the realization hit that if I'm ever going to get them access to good coaching, I'm going to have to become that coach.
Right. That's right.
And then not only after had I done the qualification, I was still faffing around. And it was you that said to me, just start, will you? We had a Zoom catch up, and you said, just start, stop looking for it to be perfect and just start. And I needed that push, and started with some in-person coaching. And then I still haven't completely park the idea of owning premises one day, but it hasn't been the right time for a number of reasons, and thought, well, I've been an online client. I know that online coaching can be transformational. Let me see what I can do online. And that was a few years ago. And here I am now with a growing audience, which is fantastic. I'm online as Prescription Strength UK. I have currently, I'm not even sure how many clients I've got, probably about less than 50, but they're all fantastic. Some stay with me for a short time, some have been with me for a long time. I have a bit of a waiting list now because I've realised I can't manage many more than that. A podcast which seems to be growing in popularity, and as we were just saying before we started recording, it seems that the type of things that I've said to my patients and my friends for years has landed quite well with an audience on Facebook and Instagram. Mainly the feedback I get is, oh, somebody's talking common sense, because we all know that there's a lot of nonsense out there in the health and fitness space. And I see them as two overlapping circles, really, health on one side and fitness on the other. And I straddle this part where they overlap, where people are talking about hormones and mood and strength and weight management and all of the psychology that goes in with that as well. Because ultimately, as we'll probably go on to discuss, if your mind's not in a great place, nothing else is going to follow. So there is endless things that I'm passionate about. Mostly they come back to helping people improve their health a little bit with living a bit better. It's not about perfection. I'm not perfect. Nobody I work with is chasing perfection. We're looking for the things that we can do that are sustainable to age well, with some strength, with some independence and some dignity and all of those things. And it seems to be working for the people that work with me. So I'm delighted and excited to see where this all goes, really, in the
Yeah.
next chapter.
No, it's phenomenal. I mean, like I said, you kind of have you have a great way of cutting through a lot of the BS that
Mm,
is, that is out there, especially as you've as you've grown your audience and as you've grown your coaching practice,
mm.
and really getting people just kind of up and moving, up and started.
Yeah.
And I think that is the number one thing. I do remember saying that to you, like, stop just trying to make it perfect. Like you have to, I mean, if I had done that, don't think I've ever would have opened my business because I had no plan. I mean, I knew I wanted to help people, but I didn't, and I knew how to do it, but I had to get the people in there and I had to get them in there somehow. So it's just a matter of just kind of doing it, getting going, and then slowly word of mouth gets out there, or even just your appearance on, social media gets out there. People tell other people, and then it grows and grows and grows from there. The reason I wanted you on the podcast today was I saw a clip that you did. You had an interview. I don't know if it was on your podcast or you were on someone else's podcast in regards to eating disorders among middle-aged women.
It
And
was, I did a reel by myself
right,
because I had read an article that caught my eye because it was initially talking about weight loss injections. And they, as everybody knows, have been
mhm,
game changing for many people. But one thing I hadn't considered about weight loss injections was the effect it might have on somebody who's been living with an eating disorder. And that was what this article was
yes,
about. So it really caught my eye. It was quite a short article. And I was really interested to know more and think more about it, but I didn't quite know who would be the right person to talk to. So I hadn't done this before, but I just recorded a reel. I think I was getting my trainers on to go out and said, this is a really interesting topic. I would love to speak to somebody about this. And then shared it and had a huge response from people who wanted to talk to me about it, to the point that I then didn't know, okay, where do I start?
hmm,
So I chose two people. One episode is already out. That's a lady in her 50s who has lived her whole life with an eating disorder, and she wanted to talk about how it resurfaced in and around menopause. And she was very generous and shared her story with me. And then an eating disorders dietitian offered to speak to me as well, and she has a book which I
hmm,
haven't read, full disclaimer, but I've recorded a really interesting conversation with her, and that actually goes out next week as
great,
well.
great.
And then in amongst that, I've been reading around it, and like anything, you open your eyes to this and then you start spotting other things elsewhere and going, actually, this is much bigger. And respect to everybody else that was willing to offer to speak to me, but I had to make a choice as to who I was going to choose. And there were lots of people working in eating disorders services, some with their own private clinics, who said, we absolutely need to talk about this issue because women in midlife are overlooked when it comes to this topic. Eating disorders still very much have the face of younger women, young girls, even, I would say. And it's true. And I think it does seem, it does seem to be a bit ageist, and it doesn't
Absolutely.
discriminate.
No, and I, as I said to you before, before we started recording, it opened my eyes. I mean, I hadn't thought about this. I mean, as someone who struggled with, um, I mean, I always say I was talking to one of my clients the other day who was telling me about, her eating disorder, and she's early 60s now. I said, I between the age of 13 and 35, right? And I'm 51 now. I struggled with a relationship with food. I can't say that I always say I can't really couldn't put myself into either category, anorexia or bulimia, because I couldn't starve myself because I liked food too much, but I couldn't make myself throw up.
Mm.
And so I ended up kind of deciding, what, I guess I must have body dysmorphia. I mean, it was almost like I had to choose like which eating disorder do I have to describe myself, because I definitely had one. And I've worked so hard over the past how many years now? I'd say probably 15, 16 years to work on that. And it actually shocked me. I mean, I would say I hadn't thought about it because I've spent so much time working on myself, that to then see that article, see your reel, hear the article, read the article that you sent me, and then find three other articles from last
Mm.
year, February, March, and June, of just this topic. It was like, how come this never came up on my feed? How come I never saw this? And I guess because for me, I haven't been looking for it. And I'm also not a doctor, so I'm not kind of in that world of, even though I have a couple clients who are on GP1, GLP medicines, they're doing it because they definitely, for health purposes, diabetes. Um, it was something that was a topic that it did actually surprise me. I'm sure
Yeah.
it shouldn't surprise me, but it does. So what what did you discover from your interview with the dietitian that you talked to about this?
Well, with first of all, I spoke to Rachel, and I spoke to them in the order that I've released the episodes. And Rachel was interesting to talk to in that she had been treated as an inpatient twice in her younger years. I think she said up until the age, I think she was quite unstable until her mid-20s, which fits with what we all
So
think
this is
of.
this is the one who's been dealing with it all her
Yes.
life, from 20s up until now, until her
Yeah,
50s.
and she's now 53. So she had a couple of periods of needing inpatient treatment and then stabilized through her 30s and most of her 40s, during which time she was raising her children. And she didn't explicitly say this, but it felt like what she was saying was raising her children and so desperately not wanting to teach them her about her disordered relationship with food. It was very front of mind. But then she hit midlife and menopause and coincidentally works within the health service as well. And the one thing you can say with certainty about working in the health service in the UK is there is a dieting culture that you cannot ignore, whether it's Slimming World posters, whether it's weekly weigh-ins, or everybody in every staff room, in the canteen, people are talking about struggling to lose weight. So if you're the outlier and you have a difficult relationship with food, it's a really hard environment to work in. And that's what really came across, is that she also works as a breastfeeding support worker, and she's dealing with lots of young moms who are at that time when their bodies are changing, and she felt very strongly that she wanted to be supportive and encouraging around that. But there was lots of talk, and I'm sure it's the same in the US, but menopause has had a moment over here. It's
Absolutely.
certainly
Here too. Absolutely. Yes. Yes.
so so whilst there's lots of positives to that, it's almost primed a generation of women to be fearful about what menopause is going to bring in relation to their bodies. Now, if you're somebody who's always had a difficult relationship with your body, and now you're anticipating this next stage, you might not even be there. And this is what Rachel came across, is that she was terrified
Mhm.
that the stability she'd achieved with her body was all going to come undone. It was all going to unravel. And she recognized the urge to start weighing herself. To what she said was, this was a very anorexic thought. I need to lose some weight now so that when I inevitably put it on, it's not too much of a
God.
problem.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And she
Yeah.
she she did take a moment to pause and say that. So it
Okay.
was really interesting. What she was positive about was that she was able to recognize it sooner, and there was much less hesitation to access support. Now, that's her as somebody having had a positive experience of professional help in the past. And my concern, probably for all the women I haven't spoke to, is those that never got a formal diagnosis, have muddled through and managed to perhaps achieve a level of stability. You've done a lot of work on yourself. A lot of people haven't done that. They've just white knuckled it and have managed to get to a point of stability. And now they're seeing those same messages about, wait for it, menopause belly, it's going to be horrendous. What are you going to do about it? That's one message that keeps coming through the airwaves. And then the other complicating factor is the fuss around weight loss injections. And what we've seen is this reemergence of being thin is everything. We were doing quite well with body positivity. And now we've taken a giant step backwards to celebrating thinness. And that was also my concern reading this article is, we can't have it both ways, can we? It seems to either be we're celebrating people for what number they are on the scale and what dress size they are. And now all of a sudden we've let go of the progress that we've made.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me that the weight loss drug is being abused.
Oh no, that was always going to happen.
That was inevitable. That was inevitable. It came out. It's been. I mean, for a couple of my clients, it has been absolutely revolutionary.
Life changing.
Life changing. And for the better. And they have continued they're continued their strength training. They've continued they've established better eating habits. I mean, they've done it right. They've done it right, and they've dropped weight, but they're maintaining their muscle mass. They're maintaining their strength. But the article was it was a little scary because it was one of those where I've discovered this. Anybody can get this. Any people can cheat the system, kind of apply for it, even if they don't have an excessive amount of weight to lose, because they want to drop those 10 pounds or those 15 pounds. And it seems like everybody has a GLP-1 now. It's not just Ozempic and Mounjaro. I mean, I'm seeing the hers advertisements and this advertisement and that advertisement. And you've got Serena Williams advertising it. I mean, it's everywhere. And it's like, wow, that went really fast from it's for this group, of people. It's very, it's not for everybody. If you have diabetes, if you have, health issues, this is going to help you. And now it's like everybody and their mother can get an injection, and they are.
Yeah.
Now you've got that skinny look again.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which, we went from we've kind of swung, the pendulum has swung again.
Yeah. And then we've also got this perfect storm of people who are fearful, people who've had difficult relationship with food, complicated relationships with their bodies, anticipating menopause being an unraveling of everything they've achieved, and this weight loss injection circling as a little temptation of going, here I am over here to the shortcut. And it's almost a recipe for disaster, isn't it, really, without safeguards in place. I was very encouraged by the speed with which Rachel, especially given our NHS, which I'm sure people in the US must hear how long people can wait to access help here. So I was very encouraged by what she shared about how quickly she was able to access help. But as I say, it's with the caveat that she would have had those markers on her record, and she would have known that what the signs were that were emerging. And I would worry that other people won't necessarily have that. The dietitian, Victoria, who I spoke to, who was very knowledgeable, she's actually in New Zealand, although their services are not dissimilar to how they're structured over here. She works in a private clinic. She was really positive, and her main area of interest is actually about how nutrition affects the brain and the ability of your brain to recover. She was very positive about people's ability to recover at any age. And this is an interesting thing that's come up in a few different areas that I've spoken to about, because if you look at some recovery models, particularly with AA, they require you to surrender and accept the fact that this is who you are, and you need to work with that. And Victoria was very different in that model, in that, no, this is absolutely recoverable, but you have got to fuel your brain, because your brain needs these essential nutrients in order to rewire itself out of those disordered eating pathways. And I thought that was a really interesting take, because most people accessing formal support for eating disorders will start with the therapy first. I don't know enough about it to know whether that's right or wrong. I haven't worked in that kind of a setting. I would imagine some sort of emotional support and therapy absolutely is the first door that you need to open on that. Whereas Victoria was saying, I don't see how, if people are nutrition or malnourished, particularly without some of the fats, the essential fats that you need for your brain health, she doesn't feel recovery stands anywhere near enough chance to be successful
Mm.
without those things in the picture, which I thought was really, really interesting. And to say that episode will be out next week. But it really got me thinking, again, coming back to the complicated area of weight loss injections is what I'm seeing. And part of why this article was so interesting to me is I see lots of people who, for the first time, are actually losing weight when they've been trying for years and years. And the novelty of not having to eat because you're not hungry is just, it's just so irresistible that they're not eating. And some
Mhm.
people very close to me I would put in that group. And so hearing Victoria's experience of how important and central that nutrition is to your brain health made me think, how many people might genuinely need to lose some weight and end up with maybe not a formal diagnosable eating disorder, but a secondary disordered eating pattern that becomes quite ingrained in your brain because you're able to exist on very little food and you end up malnourished. And so I've almost now opened the door to a whole
Yeah,
other complicated area that I
sure,
think
absolutely.
I can't unsee this either now.
No,
Um,
it is interesting because my clients, I mean, they'll say, oh, I took my shot. They then they're like, oh, so I'm not gonna, I won't, food's not going to be really an issue now. I'm not going to, I can't eat. And I'm always thinking like, I wonder what their eating is like. Like what does it look like in a day? What do their meals look like in a day? If they don't have that appetite, or what are they choosing to eat, or
mhm,
what can they eat physically? Because there are a lot of complicated. There's so much the gut. I've heard a lot of stories of the gut health that is just explodes because
mhm.
of the shot. I mean, everybody's different, so everybody's going to have different side effects from it, and one definitely being constipation or diarrhea, or I mean, so a number of things. So
Mm.
there's that fear too of like, if I take this, I'm going to feel this way, but I'm also it's going to help me lose weight. So it's kind of like
Yeah,
so many different factors into it, but
yeah.
yeah.
And as I say, I think, in fact, I saw a patient 2 weeks ago. A guy, he'd come in with just some stomach upset. It wasn't anything particularly serious, but he did say from the outset, just to let you know, I'm using Wegovy. I said, all right, that's interesting. He says, yeah, I've lost 4 stone in 5 months. And he didn't, he's tall,
Mhm.
but I thought, wow, he hasn't got much else to go. And I said, wow, okay, that's quite a lot of weight in a short amount of time. And I said, what's your exit plan? He said, oh, I haven't really thought about that. I thought, I didn't get into what he was eating. There wasn't time in the consultation, but I think it really raises this thorny question of malnourishment, and actually, almost as I say, this multi-layered problem now of they didn't go into this with an official eating disorder, but we've created this grey area now where, if you're not hungry, hunger has a role.
Exactly.
but we've dialed it out. And it's not that I'm very supportive of weight loss injections in the right environment with the right planning and the right preparation, and importantly the right exit plan, because they're only a tool like anything else. But that all gets left out of the conversation, doesn't it? We've got, as you've already said, we've got very high profile people appearing thinner and thinner and thinner. So the messages are being reinforced that it's image over everything else. And what the likes of you and I are trying to do is get people to think about what their body can do, how it performs. It's the greatest tool you'll ever own. You need
Yeah.
to fuel it
Yes. Yeah.
and
And
nurture it.
that's what was so surprising when I started looking, after I read the article and I started Googling, obviously, menopause, eating disorders. I mean, it was just like one article after another. And it was the same, but it was the same article. It seemed to be the same article. It was somebody who already had an eating disorder and has been working through it. And then they hit menopause and all of a sudden their body's changing. And then there's obviously the marketing out there, the media, the appearance, women's appearance, always scrutinized. So you go from being scrutinized, you go from going through your adolescent years, changing, your body's changing, you're developing, and you're being scrutinized for that, and you're
Hmm.
scrutinizing yourself. And then
Hmm.
you're into your 20s and 30s, and you start to feel maybe more comfortable. right? Because you're getting older. And then you hit your 40s and 50s, and now your body's changing again. I was just saying that to
Mm.
somebody. I was like, great, we get basically on both ends. We go through it when we're, 13, 14 years old, and then we're fine up until about 45. And then we hit that wall again. And at that point, again, it's as a woman ages, what she looks like, her face, her body, what she should look like, what she shouldn't look like. And so you're getting all these mixed messages. And then of course you get the advertisements for cortisol belly, menopause belly, middle age spread. I love that.
Mm. Mm.
And I definitely, as I've been aging and I'm going through menopause right now, it was pretty clear that things were changing and my body was kind of holding on to weight that it used to be able to, lose faster or more easily 6 years ago.
Yeah.
And then you discover, oh, I have no estrogen. So that plays a role into, I mean, there's just so many things. And it is good that menopause is kind of more in the forefront now. I mean, it wasn't when my mother was my age.
No.
I never heard of it. I didn't know anything about what she was going through. I was 25 when she was 50.
Mm.
So I had no clue what she was dealing with because I was out of the house. I was doing my own
Mm.
thing. And it's something that we don't have to we have to live with it. We don't have to just suck it up and deal with it. So there's so many different messages. And then the weight loss drugs just kind of play right into that and feed
Mm.
that
Yeah.
insecurity with, with
Yeah.
with many women, it seems. Yeah.
And also who seems to have joined in the complicated, tribal wars that you see online are these food purists. This gets my goat as well.
Mhm.
So I don't know, I'm sure it's the same. You must have the equivalent of these people. Some of them are quite high profile here, but I'm all for eating a healthy diet. Nobody could argue that I endorse bad food, but I also don't like this idea of demonizing lots of food. I want to eat ice cream and I enjoy cake, and I'll get a pizza and make a pizza and those kind of things. But there's this these food purists now that imply whether something needs to be organic, you need to maximize your fiber, and creating this constant stream of content out there for people to then scrutinize what they're eating. So even if you have no history of an eating disorder, maybe you found it reasonably okay to manage your weight through your 20s, 30s, and most of your 40s, you can find yourself as a woman now approaching menopause and being bombarded with suggestions of what you should eat to avoid your menopause belly and the inevitable weight gain that's going to come at midlife. And as people often say to me, if I ever do a newsletter about food, I'll get this same theme back in the replies of people are so overwhelmed with these things that they should and shouldn't be doing,
Yeah.
that I think we've got this condition. I don't know if you're familiar with the term orthorexia, which
Mhm.
is now recognized.
Yes,
There's this obsession with healthy food, and I think,
absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah.
and I can see how easily you could end up in that, because especially like you say, you do notice. I've been moaning the last couple of months that a couple of kilos that I literally would have just had to give up beer. I don't drink at all anymore, but just give up beer and the odd
Right.
pudding, and it would have sorted itself out.
Right.
No, we're in different territory now,
Yep.
and I'm just trying to decide whether to make my peace with it. I'm going to try and add it onto my deadlift. I was thinking that's a good compromise. Um, but but I can well see that the frustration of that leads you to double down and think, right, well, okay, I've got to be even more perfect with my food and restrict and control things, because you want to latch on to something that you can control. And that's as saying this as somebody who doesn't have a history of an eating disorder. So if you have never had help, perhaps never been diagnosed, but have always been wobbly with these things, and you start getting bombarded with all this content that hits online now, no wonder people don't know where to turn and double down on perhaps all of the wrong things, because nobody seems to be going, do you know what? Your body needs fuel and it needs nourishment, and please look after it, because in the next decade something even more serious might happen, and you would want to be in a good position to face that.
Yeah, especially as you said, especially with the images now of these celebrities. I mean, I saw a video of Demi Moore, and it blew me away what she looked like, because that is not the GI Jane I remember.
Mm,
That's not even the movie that she was in a couple of years ago. She's I don't know what she's doing, but she's so small. And I look at her and I just see I see bone density and I see muscle
Yeah.
loss, right? I mean, I look all my take on that is just I fear for people's physical state. Literally, like their actual their bones, their ligaments, their tendons, their muscles. Because I have worked towards I feel that as I've grown as a coach and gotten older as myself, the necessity of strength training for just our physical, obviously physical well-being, and food plays along with that, right? Our food plays along with our physical well-being. In addition to strength training, we have to eat, we have to lift weights. It's going to it's that's our 401k. That's our body when we're 60, 70, and 80. And to see celebrities and people coming out and spouting the weight loss drugs when they don't necessarily need them, and we don't know how many of them are possibly injecting themselves with this, who don't necessarily need it, because they can get their hands on it and they can be thin, and thin is always in, right? I guess thin is always in. Even when it's been out, quote unquote out, it's always been,
Mm,
I think.
mm.
I don't think there's ever a time where thin's not been out.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. It
I
never
think
really went away. We made
it
some
never went away.
progress.
You never went
Yeah.
away because you always had the bar classes and you always had your Pilates classes and you always had your this classes, and and so it really never went away. I think CrossFit obviously made the physical body of a woman with more muscle and more strength kind of the face of the new face, and it's been going along very well. But then you still have snippets of, yeah, but you want to be lean. I mean, I see on my feed, the six pack abs, and
Mm.
then and I just kind of scroll past that. I don't care about that. That's not what health is to me, right? But that's still kind of out there, even though it's this the abs are out there, the thin is out there, the strength is there, and we're getting all these different messages, and they're all mixed together, and no one and people are trying to just figure out, how do I separate all this and what is right for me, or what
And
is.
I was thinking about this the other day. The thing that pisses me off is it's still aimed at women. I was John Hamm, who played Don Draper in Mad Men, has
Mhm.
obviously been doing the interview circuit recently, promoting something else, and it's so many years since Mad Men was out. So he's been on my feed quite a lot, and he's he was making a remark to the interviewer that with his wife he was rewatching Mad Men from probably whenever it was 10, 15 years ago, and he says, "Yeah, oh yeah, it's quite interesting looking back at myself, looking more hair, skinnier, and he is noticeably different. Like he has gained some weight and he still looks great. He's a good
Mhm.
looking guy." And I kind of clocked that and thought, he's not apologetic for having put a little bit of weight on. He's just accepted that he's 10, 15 years older. And then I was watching some Jamie Oliver through the week. I don't know how well known Jamie Oliver is in America, the chef, maybe not
Mhm.
known at all, but
Yeah,
he's now 51 or
yeah,
52.
yeah.
And, you will never meet a more enthusiastic man about food. And I was looking at him thinking, yeah, he looks 50. He's put on a bit of paunch and he still looks healthy and he's still okay. He's not desperately trying to apologize for it. But women in the public eye clearly still feel this overwhelming pressure as we age to maintain what you look like at 27, 28, whether that's through collagen, which I've made no secret of my disapproval of for its general uselessness, but it's all part of this same package of no, 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 God forbid you look a bit older. No, 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 that'd be the worst thing ever. And you hear actresses talk about it, don't you? In that they suddenly don't get shortlisted for bigger roles. And I don't know, maybe I can understand it more if your appearance directly impacts your income and your livelihood. But I think it has a trickle down effect for those of us just just trying to live and build the best life possible. It
Yeah.
affects our sense of what is beautiful and what is acceptable, even if we try and resist it.
But that word invisible, I mean, that's what a lot of my clients, my mom has used that word a lot, that as women age, 60s, 70s, they do feel invisible. They start to feel they don't feel frail themselves. They start to see that others view them as being frail without before they even see them doing something, right? Because maybe they don't look strong, quote unquote. But they are strong. They are
Mm.
capable. They're doing something about it. All right. They're going to the gym. They're lifting weights. They are eating well, right? They are living their lives. They're volunteering. They're traveling. They don't want to be invisible, and yet that's how they feel. They feel less invisible the more they come to the gym and the stronger they become because now they feel more capable. And when they feel more capable, they stand taller, they're more present, they're more out there. And
Mm,
then people do see them. Then people start to
mm,
notice them. But that is a sign too. So that's not, it has nothing to do with even, even the eating. It's just that constant feeling of I'm invisible, small,
mm,
big, tall, short, it doesn't matter. They're
mm,
older. They look older in
mm,
their face. They've got gray hair. They may have lost some height. They might be a little bit stooped. But they don't want to feel invisible. They don't want to be said, oh, well, how old are you? Oh, okay. And then, kind of put off to the side. So there's so much there compounding. And that's women who've gone through menopause. So that's like the postmenopausal women. The menopausal women, our women, they're heading into that direction of I'm being told to look one way. I don't know how to accept this, not accept this. I don't know how to make myself feel that I'm seen whether or not I look the way you think I look. Um, it's just a hard line. Um,
I think this is where the menopause publicity and campaigning hasn't quite settled on its messaging yet in my mind, because it feels on the one hand that we've had this huge progress with people saying recognize menopause, know that it's real, it's not easy, and we need it to be spoken about, and that's great.
right.
Then the path divides as far as I can see, because there are lots of people selling women's health products and some commercial interest pushing hormone replacement therapy. And in that messaging comes stuff that I think strays from what we actually know. So we know at the moment that while you're taking HRT, that it will protect your bone health while you're taking it, but you lose those benefits when you stop. And we we don't yet know whether it actually has a meaningful preventative effect on your brain. The thinking is it probably will, but we still haven't got data to show that yet. But some people are pushing it as dementia prevention, which is a little bit premature in my mind. Not that it's harmful, and I see no evidence to suggest that it's harmful. And I'm very pro HRT for women who need it, want to choose it, and have found benefit from it. But there's also, I'm very sympathetic to the women who can't take it. And I've got several clients who've had breast cancer, so it's just
Mhm.
not an
Right,
option for them.
right,
And I almost feel like we have to address the what we know it can't do just yet to not to appease those, but for balance. And this is the difficult bit, because it's almost like the HRT fanatics who really want to push it, probably because they've got a commercial interest in it, dare I say, are almost siding with the, yeah, but you can keep this younger body for longer. Here it goes. Buy from me, sell from me, have this supplement. But if you're not in that camp and it's not an option that's available to you, what? So you then become the invisible half of the female society. Well, no, not at all. And somewhere in the middle is the facts. And the reality is that some people are helped by it and other people aren't. Some people can't tolerate it. Some people just don't want to take it. And that is absolutely fine. You are not on the scrap heap if you are not choosing that path. And I find myself having to kind of push that quite a bit. And I genuinely have no dog in this fight. I don't sell HRT. I prescribe it as a doctor, like most of the doctors should. I would never suggest somebody doesn't need it if they want to try it. Absolutely try it. See how you are with it. But let's be measured about what we know it can and can't do. And you are still just as valuable a human being if you choose to accept what comes without it anyway, because that voice and that opinion doesn't necessarily get
yeah,
shared, I
no,
don't think.
no. I mean, as somebody who started HRT last May, it was life-changing. It was phenomenal. I started a patch, and I kind of like every 3 days I would change it, and then I went to a weekly patch. That made a huge difference.
What did you notice?
My hot flashes went away. My mood was so much better. I was about to divorce Diego. Prior to that, I really was. Anything he said to me, did to me, looked at me, touched me, made me cringe.
Mm,
Um, so my mood, I mean, people were saying to me like a week after, they're like, "You're really happy." I mean, I was laughing a lot.
mm,
I was laughing a lot. I found myself crying. Well, like I wasn't crying at all before. I was just always just kind of like, yeah, whatever. Now it felt like my emotions were back. I felt like, I just sound so weird, but I felt like me again.
that's what people say. That's what I hear all the
I
time.
felt like me. And it was something as simple as that. My stomach, I had a lot of issues. I've always had issues with my GI tract, and I was diagnosed with IBS when I was 19 years old. But that seemed to kind of calm down. That seemed to subside. But it was just I could sleep at night. I started taking progesterone too, so I was taking that plus the patch, and I could tell when I needed to up the dose. I started with a very
Mm,
low dose, and about 6 months later, I contacted my GYN and I said, is there such a thing as dialing up the dose? I said, because I really could. And she said, yes. She
mm,
said, try two patches. I didn't have two patches, so she just prescribed an additional dose, and that changed it again. I was able, and I'm very open about this. I was able to take myself off of 60 milligrams of my anxiety medication.
mm,
I was on 90 milligrams.
mm.
I went on 30 more prior to our election here in 2024. And
Is that just correlation?
in 2025, and in 2025, after I started the patch, I was able to take myself off 30.
Mm,
And then by the end of 2025, I took myself off another 30.
mm,
And I talked to my new doctor and I said, I'd love to be able to taper down off of what I'm on now. She goes, you could say, that's fine. I'm on the smallest dose possible now. But it was something that I noticed it because I noticed it when I went off of it for the first, when I went off of it once, it was clear within a month that that was a bad decision. I went cold
mm.
turkey and I had to go right back on it again. So that changed. And when I had some blood work done, I had no estrogen. I mean, I had like none in my system. So it's surprising that my DEXA scan was as good as it was, considering that I had no estrogen in my
It's
system
not
whatsoever.
surprising at all, given how strong you are. It's
But that's the thing, it's like
expected.
it was so good that I was actually strength training
Mm,
because I had no estrogen. And so I'm off of it right now because I'm having a surgery tomorrow. So my surgeon wanted me to go off of it. So I've been off of it for 2 weeks. Haven't noticed too much of a difference. Sleeping's a little bit off, but that could be also, my hip.
mm,
Definitely, um, uh, I can't say that I've felt too different, maybe because I leveled off a bit with the estrogen. So a little bit, I can't wait to go back on. Let's just say this. I can't wait to go back on it because I do feel like it made me feel like Emily. It
mm,
made me feel like
mm.
I could tolerate everything and everything was just fine and there was no issues and Diego was fine. He noticed a huge difference in my personality.
Interesting. Yeah.
He's the one who noticed it. He noticed
Yeah.
the difference in how I was prior versus after. So I've been talking a lot to women about it and knowing though those who can't take it and trying to figure out like what's other options that they might have because some women are really beat up by it and others it doesn't
Yeah.
affect them that much. But there's always I'll tell a lot of my women who are starting to feel things to keep track. I said, just keep track of them. Write it down because that's what I did.
Collect the data.
I wrote down everything that was bothering me. But the the I've been thinking about this ever since I reached out to you about this article and the um, eating disorders and being in middle age. And I know that when I was trying to lose some weight last year for a strong woman contest, I wanted to be in a certain weight class. I had like maybe 3 or 4 pounds to lose. It was so hard to get down those 3 or 4 pounds. And I actually started working with a client of mine who's a dietitian also. She works for the FDA, but she also she has a background as a nutritionist. So I started working with her and I love her. And she helped me get down to at least where I wanted to be. I just wanted to be under this one weight class. not a big deal if I'd have been up, but it also helped me kind of retrack, my food and kind of like take a little bit look like, have I gone off? Can I get back on track a little bit? But it was increasingly difficult until I started estrogen. And then when I started the patch, things got a little easier. Things actually got easier. So
Interesting.
that was interesting too. That was interesting to see the change in that too. I
Which
was
bit got easier?
actually starting to lose the weight. Like all of a sudden
So
the
you're
pound
putting in the same amount of effort and the scale was moving.
scale started
Okay.
to move. The scale started to move. The minute I started the patch, about a month into it, I could see it in a definite decrease, a definite immediate, like the scale started to move. And I was
Yeah.
putting in the same amount of work, and because I've been working with her since then too, even after the contest, I decided, you know what, I like working for you. My insurance covers it, why not?
Mm.
It's easy. And I already have a lot of things in place. So it's easy for her to talk to me because obviously I worked so hard on myself to get to this place. But I did notice the difference. And I thought to myself, this this is why women go so crazy with
Yeah.
trying to lose weight because they do get older. Like 6 years ago, I dropped 15 pounds with a friend of mine, put in the same amount of work, same
Mm.
amount, no change, easy. This time, struggling to just get down 3 or 4 pounds is like, you've got to be kidding me.
That's really interesting because a lot of people do ask me about this. Would it help me lose weight? Now, bearing in mind, most of the people I that would ask me that have still got a lot of low-hanging fruit that they can deal with
Right.
before they need to go to that. Your situation would be different in that the less you've got to lose, the harder it is, no question. And I would put myself in that same category in that always would sit around 60 kilos. And this year it seems to be 62. And I can get to 61, but then just sneezing, we'll be back at 62 the next day. Does it matter? I mean, that's a whole other question, isn't it?
Exactly.
It's a
Yes.
philosophical question.
Yes.
Does this really
Yes.
matter in the grand scheme of things? No. Does it piss me off? Yes. But interestingly, I tried some estrogen for a month and it didn't really do very
Mhm.
much. And I've decided I'm going to park it because for me to be able to take it, I need the same noticeable result that you had. Otherwise, I'll just forget because the bit of in me that doesn't like taking anything will just win and go, ah, you don't need it, whatever. So, but going back to what I was saying is that yes, lots and lots of women do ask me about this. And what does the data say? The data does seem to show that for women who are on HRT, yes, they will probably not start to lay down fat in that more typical postmenopausal central pattern while they are taking it. But what we've not been able to demonstrate is a measurable effect on metabolic rate.
Mhm.
So if we go purely by the data, then we have to say, well, no, it doesn't make any difference. But what you're describing matches what other people have said to me. But I wonder, again, this is the bit that I wonder about when I'm thinking these things over is does feeling better in your mood, in your sleep, just your well-being translate into just being able to do what's required and not feel like you're pushing a rock up a hill,
Yeah.
maybe. I don't
Yeah.
know. That's
Yeah.
just
I
my
mean,
thoughts on it.
that's it. I mean, that's why it was I mean, obviously I didn't start the estrogen in order to lose the weight. That wasn't
No.
that wasn't it. I mean, the only reason I even started that journey with my friend was because I wanted to get into a certain weight class. I just because the weights were easier.
Yes,
I
I
wanted
could
to make
well
sure I
understand
wasn't,
that.
I mean, they were little. So the next weight class up was like a little bit harder, but it also allowed me to just step back because because for me it's always good to step back and just kind of get on track because I'm not going to lie. I've worked very hard over the past 15 years to get to this place. Um, but I know myself and I know that I always want to kind of come back to make sure that I'm moving in the right direction because I know how I feel. We know how we feel. We know how we feel. We know how our bodies feel. I'm beyond where I was when I was in my 30s, beyond where I was even when I was in my early 40s. That's for sure. But I did notice just a little bit, there was a little bit of a change, definitely a little bit of a change. Maybe that had everything to do with just my mood too. I just started to feel better and I started to notice things a little bit better. Like I just was
Mm.
happier. But nothing has changed with my eating. My eating's always been the same. I know for myself, like, I start to throw in snacks here and there, and that starts to add up. It adds up a little bit more now than it did when I was, in my 40 when I was 45. or 44, right? So
Mm,
a little different. I mean, there was definitely a shift between, 6 years ago to now. Um, I'm older, my body's changed, my metabolism has changed, I'm probably moving a little bit less. I'm definitely moving less now because of my hip.
mm.
And and I know that I won't be able to train for the next, really well, like I usually can for the next couple of weeks. So I will be monitoring how much, what my eating is. But I'm, I'm so, for me, I'm not worried, right?
Mm.
I'm not worried. That's taken a long time to get to this point, right? And that's a big, that's when was reading the articles, I thought to myself, I've really am thankful and grateful that I was able to kind of get through that. And I think obviously the barbell training had everything to do with it.
I was going to say,
I will always come back to that, Lynette.
how much, if you still were in the dance world, in that environment, in that culture, just as a thought experiment, how do you think this stage of life would feel? Because thinking back to Rachel, who I spoke to, in an environment every day for work where everyone's talking about weight loss and
Right.
wanting to lose weight. I mean, I don't know about you, but me showing up for my clients gives me a level of accountability. The world that I've built around me now is protective to some extent against everything unraveling. But not everybody has that. Not everybody can change their world. You're in a different world now, surrounded by different people having different conversations. But in the dance world, how do you think this would have landed?
Oh, I mean, I think definitely I was already starting this journey when I was dancing, right? I've always been in the gym, always been in the gym. But the barbell training, I was started strength training and I started coaching while I was in the with a new company. And it was I since I was already on a better path, I felt nothing. I had no worries. I had no issues because I was like my dance company was second to my strength world now. That was
Mm,
important. That was what I was doing. This is my livelihood now. This is my career. And this is what got me into dance, got me back to dance. And when I
mm,
stopped dancing, yes, when I stopped dancing, you can see pictures how much my body changed from when I stopped dancing to and started just focusing on, on training. Um, I started to gain weight, but the issue with me was I needed to. I
mm,
needed to physically for my health and for my physical well-being because the whole reason I started strength training was because of my back. And I couldn't dance because of my back. So when I came back to dance, I thought, I'm never gonna I can't stop this. I can never stop this type of work.
mm,
And sure enough, once I stopped dancing and started to focus on strength training, yeah, I got stronger. I put more muscle on, I put more weight on, and then I settled on this weight. I kind of got to a point where like that's where I was, and that's where my body
mm,
kind of has sat for the past 14 years or so. Um, I have a group of dancers that I work with. I train on Saturdays, and they're 11 and 12. And they're so lovely. And we focus on strength. And they see the pictures of like Jen Thompson and Susie, Gary deadlifting, and they see all the women coming in there to lift. And it's the best environment we could put those three girls into, because they
mm,
all have three different bodies. They're all different body types. And I know that their teacher themselves, her teacher, my girlfriend, focuses on strength and a strong body and healthy eating and eating, right? And I think I've kind of, if I have anything to do with it, I can change their perception of what a body should feel like and look like
mm,
as a dancer.
mm,
Because they all have three different bodies. One is like 5'6" already, and she's 11, so she's like my height. The other one's 12. She's shorter and about, the size of a toothpick. And then the other 11-year-old is built like a powerlifter.
mm,
And they're all dancers. And they all love this work.
mm,
They're not worried about getting big. They're not worried about what's going to happen to their bodies. All they know is they're doing something that they like. They're doing it together and it makes them feel good and they enjoy seeing the progress that each other,
mm,
making. So I don't know where I would be. I know where
mm,
I am right now in the dance world, my role, and it's a good role.
Mm.
and it's a role that I take seriously. Like it's something where they come in and we focus on the task at hand, which is lifting weights.
Mm.
You
I
know,
think environment is so, if somebody is struggling with all of this, I mean, it's not realistic for everybody just to change jobs. I appreciate that. But even in the home, the things you're looking at, the images that you're filling with,
yes,
on your feed, curate your feed, unfollow things that are repetitively, polluting your idea of what you should or shouldn't look like. It is possible. It is entirely possible to steer what you look at. But I do think it makes such a difference, and people need role models. And I mean, that's effectively what you're doing for your young dancers, is that you're role modeling, thankfully, that people are different shapes and sizes, and we should celebrate
yeah.
that.
And I'm seeing that even at the high school. So at BSA, where I graduated from, the past couple of years, I've been doing Nutcracker there. I'm the mother in the party scene of Nutcracker, and it's a very contemporary Nutcracker. I get to wear jeans and a sweater and boots. The dancers are all shapes and sizes these days.
Mm,
And they truly are. I mean, it's breathtakingly refreshing to see
mm,
it, because that wasn't the case years ago. It was when I was there, and then it shifted, and now it's kind of come back again to bodies of all sizes are dancers,
good.
and they're not
Mm,
all going to be ballerinas. And we're
mm,
not teaching all just ballet. There's modern, there's jazz, so I was actually kind of like, really it opened my eyes because I wasn't expecting that. And it's lovely to see that change. And I think that has everything to do with the direction that the dance department's going in.
mm.
Because I've been training a woman who was there for 2 years in the 80s when it first opened, right? It opened like in 81 or so. And it took her almost 30 years through therapy to get over her issues, her eating disorder
Wow.
issues. And
Mm,
because they do juries. And it was the teacher at the time wrote the word fat.
mm,
And I'm like, that's not today.
mm,
That's not today, but that was then. That was in the 80s. That was in the 80s. I
mm,
mean, we're talking about the dance world is not, it has its beauty on stage. I think it's coming around. You probably still have schools of thought, that still like the kind of the pinhead, the Balanchine look, but not now, not now. So I
mm,
think that the direction it's heading in is a positive direction, of health and what a body can do, what it's capable of doing, not just what it looks like, because there are plenty of
mm,
dancers who look like a ballerina, who look like dancers and can't do anything because they're so weak,
mm,
and probably undernourished. So I was pleased to see that, and make a point of, like, with the dancers I have and with the dancers I come in contact with, just talking about strength and bodies.
mm,
Just not even talking about bodies, just talking about strength, just talking about it because it made such an impact on me. And I think about that every time as I was reading those articles. I thought about what a difference the strength training did for me that no amount of therapy could do.
mm,
No
mm,
amount of therapy did what starting barbell training did for me.
mm,
So I think about, like, the woman that you spoke to, Rachel, and the dietitian.
mm,
I think, that's what helped me. I don't know how many, and I think it's helped a lot of other women too that I've come in contact with, for sure. And I don't think I'm the only one who would say, yes, when I started strength training, and discovered what my body was capable of doing. There was that book that came out, a couple of years ago by a young woman, maybe it was just last year. And I'm blanking on the name of it, but it was her journey from, you know, uh, her kind of eating disorder into discovering barbell training and then what it's done for her. And so it's not alone in this.
mm.
I wonder how many more women we could, you would be able to find a better place in their life if they discovered their bodies and their capabilities versus what their body looks like. That's
Yeah.
a challenge. That's
Yeah, and I think you alluded to CrossFit earlier on, and I think it has been beneficial. I would say it's still quite niche. I wouldn't say the average person on the street knows what CrossFit is, but it's certainly more, it's not difficult to find now.
Yeah.
And then within that world, it does showcase, fit, strong women. I mean, the competitive ones that you could have a different discussion
Right.
about the
Yeah.
elites CrossFitters, couldn't you? But nonetheless, it does champion what your body can do rather than what it looks at, and I'm all for that. But a few other sectors could definitely do with brushing up a little bit. And I still think that the media could go a long way. I've been going back to weight loss injections. I think it's been interesting here to watch
Hmm.
the angle that the media have taken, and I'm sure it's because journalists themselves have been experimenting and using them, and it's increased the level of reporting about it probably disproportionately, and it seems to swing from one extreme to another, to fear mongering, to actually now restaurants are having GLP-1 menus and things, and you kind of think, well,
Oh, goodness.
yeah, apparently, and Marks and Spencers have done a whole range of food that's
Wow.
apparently still nutritious, but smaller portions for people. We
Okay.
don't need that, we
No,
really don't
no.
need that. But again, if you're somebody who's got a difficult relationship with food, it's just more complicated things to navigate, isn't
I
it?
think if I were, this was me 30 years ago, and they had a GLP-1 out then, I definitely know I would have done that. I definitely
Yeah.
know. Would have tried to figure out a way to do that for myself, because that's where my brain was. That's where
Mm,
my thought, that's where I was. I wanted to be smaller. I wanted to take up
mm,
less space, and I was going to do everything possible to do it, going about it all the wrong way. That would have been a real quick fix. Because I mean, I did other things. I tried other things.
mm,
But there wasn't that. And so, but now I look at that and I think that should be used like any medication appropriately.
mm,
For the appropriate person, for the appropriate individual. It's revolutionary. But like all things, it becomes it
mm.
becomes it becomes something else. And then it
Yeah.
has this side effect where now
Yeah.
everybody starts to feel bad about the way they look, and they can get smaller and smaller and smaller. I saw some very sad clip. It was a video of a young woman who started taking it, and she can't stop. I mean, it's like, she can't stop taking it. I mean, which doesn't surprise me. It doesn't surprise me that when you get hooked to something, it's like anything. It's like kind of any drug in a sense.
Yeah.
You can get hooked to being smaller, and I can lose more weight and more weight and more weight. I mean, once an anorexic figures out how not to eat and how to control how much, usually she can put into her body,
Mm.
it's a domino effect. It doesn't
Yeah.
stop. It doesn't stop there.
Yeah, yeah. And actually, one of the things that stayed with me from my conversation with Victoria was that she finds it easier to engage with clients by introducing them to the effects of malnutrition on their brain, because they've already disengaged from their bodies. So telling them about the harm it'll do to their body has less impact, but actually they do want to preserve their brain. And she's found that that's a really good door and a way into actually helping these people.
Right.
But the next challenge is a prescribed high calorie diet, which they tend to struggle with.
Sure.
And she feels that you need to adhere to that first before you've got any hope of the therapy working,
Hmm.
which is interesting.
Hmm.
It's interesting, but no doubt very, very difficult.
Yeah, I can see,
I would imagine.
I can see that. Because if you're not going to talk about it, because I refuse to talk about it. When my mother put me in therapy for,
Mm,
when I was in high school, and then I tried to put myself in therapy in college, and then I tried to put myself in therapy again when I was in New York, after college. I wouldn't talk about it.
mm,
I went there with the wanting to, but I would find other things to discuss.
mm,
I didn't want to.
mm,
To me, I didn't know how to discuss it or how to talk about it, and what was talking about it going to do for me.
mm.
How's that going to help me
Yeah.
figure this out? And no one approached me in any other way.
Mm.
So,
And that's very typical of younger people, isn't it? I think that's you need a few years of life experience under your belt to realize that, oh, actually talking has a lot of value. But you don't realize that when you're 25, do you, with
no,
anything? It's
no.
it really doesn't. I was just thinking about something earlier on. That's I'm reading a very good book. Actually, it's called The Weight Loss Prescription, and it was sent to me because I'm talking to one of the authors at the end of April, and it's all about how to use weight loss injections and use them to address the difficult relationship with food, and so that you can deal with that while you're on them and then transition off them more safely. It's a really good book. I'm really enjoying it. But she makes no qualms about there's a lot of work that you've got to do on yourself.
Yes.
And it reminded me of the therapist that I did a podcast episode with recently. He's authored a fantastically successful book called Addicted to Anxiety. And the message from him was the same. You've got to put the work in. You don't have to live your life anxious, but there's work to be done. And I was just thinking how when I first trained as a GP, so how long have I been a GP? 19 years now. The big part of the GP training is lots of reflection. And I remember thinking, God, do these people do anything else other than reflect? And now, the first chance when I get a bit of time to myself, I sit down and think, okay,
Yeah.
how can I reflect on that? And that's where you learn, isn't it? It's the reflection,
Always.
whether you're, just looking for the patterns, reflecting back, you with your HRT, reflecting back and going, oh, hang on, there's patterns here to notice.
Yes.
Oh, and, you get all these kind of light bulb moments that when I was training as a GP in my late 20s, I wasn't interested in any reflection. Just get me on to the next thing. And so I think sometimes, it just comes with maturity. Thank
I think
goodness.
so. I think so. And
Mm,
that's why the the articles were very eye-opening to me to see. And I, like I said, I hadn't thought about it because I spent a lot of in the past few years really working on myself and acknowledging that, I'm in the back of my head, there's always going to be something there, but you can change. I think that's what Victoria was saying, right?
mm,
You're not,
yeah.
once you have that, that's not who you are. It's not who I am. It's
Mm.
still there, but it's not who I am. I'm not going to be like, well, once that bi dysmorphic, individual always. No,
No, I
no,
agree.
because I can look at myself in the mirror and I like what I see, which 20 years ago, I didn't.
Mm,
I didn't.
mm,
I didn't like what I saw. I didn't like what I saw.
yeah.
So I can see, and I think that um, it does play. Unfortunately, I come back to this all the time. Unfortunately, media, and it
Mm,
used to be magazines, and now it's
yeah.
obviously Instagram or TikTok or whatever plays a huge role. And I can do this to it. I can just swipe by. I can just scroll on by, delete something, not acknowledge it. There are many people who can't.
Yeah.
What they see to them is reality. That's not
Mm,
reality. It's not reality, but we view it as reality. Rebecca and I did a podcast on your digital sheepdog,
mm.
and what once you start looking for things, other things start
Oh,
popping
yeah.
up. If you don't look for it, it's not going to
Yeah.
pop up, right? But if you do see things over and over and over again, you can either try to just ignore it, or it becomes a part of you because you want so badly to be that person or to feel that
Mm,
way again. And if you already have an issue, if you've had a past issue, it's going to just feed on.
mm. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. And I would say if your algorithm is showing you things and you're confused by why, the likelihood is you've not realized how long you've been pausing on certain posts because
right.
it's very sensitive to what you like and how long you pause, especially TikTok. Instagram, probably not quite as sensitive, but be careful. It may recognize your patterns before you do, I would say.
100%, 100%.
Yeah. Yeah.
This has been fantastic. Thank you so much.
Pleasure.
Is there anything that we haven't touched on that you want to mention before we say goodbye? Because I mean, we could talk forever about this, but obviously, we don't have the time. I know.
No, I was going to say there's a million different angles in which we could go off at tangents left, right, and centre, but I think people's attention will dwindle. That's for sure. But
Think,
no, I think all these things are so important for us as women. They really are important to think about and think about how it sits with you and how you're affected by it. But that needs a bit of reflection to work on that,
Yeah, and
which
I
the
think I have to be
20-year-olds
honest.
won't
I
do.
mean, Diego likes to joke with me, about my podcast, and he's like, "Oh, the one listener," and I'm like, "Oh, you know what? Be quiet. We've been around for 6 years now. I've got plenty of listeners. I'm not
Mm,
huge, but I'm not small. But a lot of my, listeners are obviously my clients, in addition to people, outside the gym, and I have a lot of women, and I have a lot of
mm,
women. And this may be something that they haven't thought about, or they've been going through and they don't want to talk about it. So it is important. It is important to discuss it because it goes hand in hand with the training.
Mm.
goes hand in hand with the strength training, right? People they want to feel better, they want to look better, and they're getting this message, but then they might also see something else. And
Yeah.
the message might not be, might not be the one that you want to see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Great.
So thank you
Great.
so much. Remind everybody your I would actually your Instagram
My Instagram and
podcast,
Facebook
everything.
is, yes, Prescription Strength UK on Instagram. My Facebook, I think, is the same as well. And my own podcast is the Prescription Strength podcast. If anybody is interested in Rachel's story or Victoria's story next week, or even the weight loss injection episode, which that won't be out until probably end of May, as I'm this time it takes to edit and get it out. But I think that'll be interesting conversation, actually. It's an interesting book about the work you can do to untangle yourself from your complicated
Great.
relationship with food.
It's
Yeah.
great. I'm
Great.
thinking of a couple people in mind who would really benefit from listening to that. So I'm going to put
Yeah.
all that. I'm going to put the links in the show notes
Mm.
to your podcast, and so that people can take a listen and then reach out to you as they need to.
Yeah.
If people had questions for you, would you be open to
Email me. Yes,
oh, okay.
absolutely.
What's your email?
Yeah. It's Lynette at prescriptionstrength.co.uk. They can message me on Instagram. My messages sometimes go a bit crazy on Instagram. It depends. But I answer all emails because it's calmer and you can work through them more quietly than you can on Instagram. But I do try and answer as much as I can on Instagram as well.
Great.
So
I'm going to put
yeah,
all that in the show notes as well. So if they,
yeah.
they'll have all that information, and then they can reach out to you if they have questions.
Pleasure.
Fantastic. Lynette, thank you
Great.
so much.
Really enjoyed it. No
Thank
problem
you.
at all.
Thank you. And it's been great to see you because we have
Yes.
been together for a couple of years. I was looking back, I think it was 2023, possibly the last time we saw each other, because I saw a Zoom link to send to you. So I guess it's
Was
been,
it? I thought no, we spoke last year.
did we
Yes.
remember about what?
Um,
Maybe we did.
we did.
I
I've
know,
definitely spoke to you since
I
the
know you've been on,
bridge.
I know we did. I know I put one of our conversations, I made it a podcast because it was so good. I think, I think
That was a while ago.
yeah, we were talking about your coaching, your
Yes.
clients. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But I'm sure we spoke last year. I'm sure we did.
I'm good.
But likewise, I would like to reciprocate and get you on, but I'm mindful that you've got your surgery. So
I'm this whole week I'm going to be good for the next couple of weeks. I'll be walking around with my trusty cane here. So
okay.
definitely,
How do you feel about it?
I'm excited.
Are you?
I am excited. I'm excited. I've been waiting for this day. I didn't think it was going to come this soon, but my father he had both his hips done, and it was only a matter of time that his daughter was going to have her hips done because I am my father's child to a T. Everything he's gone through, I've gone through. He had sinus surgery when he was 40. I had sinus surgery when I was 50. Uh, so this was not unexpected. It's not unexpected. It was just I didn't think my hips were going to be this bad this soon, but the past 3 years have proven otherwise. And
Okay.
yeah, so I'm excited. I am. I'm looking for, just like with my knee, I'm looking forward to rehabbing my hip
Mm.
and going through that process because it just makes me even more aware of my body and even more aware of how to rehab someone coming from from a surgery
Are you
like
going to rehab yourself?
yes, with the help
Oh,
of John Patrizio, who's
oh, okay.
that's
Okay.
yeah. So John,
Yeah.
I reached out to John before this to talk to him. Darren Deaton helped me with my knee, so
Right.
I'll have John to help me and with the hip. But there's really no PT prescribed for this. I think it's just a matter of waiting for that nerve
Yeah.
to kind of grow around the new
Is it a total hip replacement they're doing? Total. Okay.
hip
They
replacement
may as well. There's no
on the
point
right,
doing
on the
half.
right. Yeah,
Yeah.
hour and a half surgery, outpatient,
What? They're doing
outpatient.
it as an outpatient. What, under spinal?
They send you home. Oh no, no, it's like as in like I'm not going to stay in the hospital. They'll put me
What,
on.
not even for one night?
Nope. They send
Okay.
everyone home these days. I think
Wow.
if I were like maybe older, they might keep me, but they
Okay.
they they are like out the door. I watched a video from 2013 of a surgery. It was an hour and 15 minutes that they did this total hip replacement. Hour and 15,
Mm,
beginning to end. Amazing what they can do now.
wow. Yeah, it is. I just
Yeah.
would be, I would be terrified handing myself over. I really would.
Infection.
But
They're worried about infection. So they want you out of the hospital as soon as possible, I think.
mm,
But they get you out of bed, they get you walking, they get you taking some stairs to make sure that you're okay with that. And then He sends you home.
Has Diego got his nurse's uniform ready?
He's ready. I told him I was going to buy a bell.
My mum got, I was going to say, my mum had a hysterectomy and she got a bell. I swear her husband was ready to fling that thing out the window.
The problem is I think he's going to have to watch out for me, not like, not leaving my the couch too much and taking the stairs or walking to the kitchen, because I'm going to, they want you icing it, but they also want you walking. We want you icing it and resting it, but we also want you walking as much as possible. Okay.
Right. Which is it?
It is, which is it. Exactly. Yeah.
Well, good luck.
Thank you.
Good luck. You'll be fine because you're fit and strong, but even so, it's just that.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot. I'll be interested to see where I am tomorrow at this time. But no, I'm definitely actually at this time, I probably still might be in the hospital. Yeah, I might be. I might be at the hospital still. Yeah, because I paid surgery's like at 7:30. So, they're not gonna kick me out too soon.
No, you usually have to eat something and go for a wee before they'll.
And then they'll let you go.
Yeah.
No, I think the doctor that I watched perform the surgery that the video we watched, he was interviewed at the end, and he was asked, what patients fare the best, older, younger, smaller, heavier, and the doctor said those with the best attitude.
Yeah.
I'm like,
true.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
We're brave, but it needs done, and that's that. Yeah, I would overthink it.
No, the walking is becoming a pain, and the stairs, and it's interesting. Like, is it bad because my brain knows I'm having surgery, or is it bad because it's bad?
Yeah,
it was okay, and then I just started to do this like really quickly. The past week, it's like deteriorated even more, and I'm like, okay, is that my mind working towards the surgery, or is it just the hip is bad, and I pushed it to a brink of no return. But I can't imagine doing this, continuing like this for months from now, because it's not going to get better. Obviously, nothing that can fix it right that in the gym. Yeah.
Wow. Okay, well, chart your recovery when you come back straight. It'd be really helpful for some of my clients to show them that, because some people do need a good old, come on, pull your socks up, you can do this. I
am definitely going, like I did with the knee surgery, I'm going to do with this too. Just kind of keep track of everything that goes on, because it'll be good for other people. And it's always good to, like, when I looked for a meniscus root repair recovery story, I found none. So I put my own together.
Yeah. It's inspiring for people. Yeah, it is. Definitely.
It needs to be known. So I've watched enough videos of people talking about their recovery to kind of give me a good idea of what the first week looks like. But then after that, I have no idea what's going to be like. Yeah.
Cool. Great.
Thank you.
Right. Pleasure. Hopefully, I could hear the cat whinging on the other side of the door. Hopefully you don't pick it up on the audio. You've not heard it. Okay, so that's fine.
I haven't heard it. And we get the dog, Rebecca's dog, all the time. And her husband or kids.
No, mine are all out, apart from the cat whinging. So cool.
Thank you so much.
Right.
I know you're busy.
Pleasure.
I'd love to catch up even another time, just to kind of talk.
I'm writing a book, by the way.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I got approached by a publisher, and it looks like it's going ahead. I haven't got a book deal yet. My proposal form is done. You can't hack health. What the internet doesn't tell you is my working title. It may change.
Love it.
So I've got an agent, and she's going to put it out on submission in the next couple of weeks.
Awesome.
So
that's
we'll
awesome.
see. I know. I was approached by an editor just through Instagram, basically. Have you thought about writing a book? No, but I will, because I've got plenty to say. So
that's right.
So that's that will take up a lot of this year, but I'll let you know what happens and that.
Yes.
So
yes.
Cool.
Lovely.
But,
all right.
Cool. Good luck for tomorrow. All right.
I will. Thank you so much, Lynette.
Speak soon. Bye-bye. Bye.
Thanks for listening to 5x3 Radio with Emily and Rebecca. If you like our show and want to know more about 5x3 training, please visit us at www.5, that's F-I-V-E, the letter X, the number 3.com. You can also find us on Facebook and Instagram. To learn more about Rebecca, please visit her website, cornerstonestrengthmaryland.com. Thanks for listening, and have a great week.